Rain Shroud is a young guy with beast tamer abilities, which means he has the power to communicate with animals and form contracts with them to use their powers for his benefit. Thanks to these abilities, he lands a position in a hero's party and helps with transport, reconnaissance, and logistics. He works hard to support his comrades in the background, a valuable job he's been entrusted by the party, or so he thinks. In reality, the other members look down upon him because he lacks combatant skills. Within just 6 months of working with them, Rien gets fired by the arrogant party leader, Arios Orlando. They say he's useless to his face, and that he only holds them back because they constantly have to save him from monsters. Shocked to hear what his comrades really think of him, Rien silently takes his hero cloak off and leaves. Rien sits on a bench at the town square and contemplates all the harsh remarks the members had thrown at him before, which he had overlooked. He needs to think of a plan to keep making a living. At that moment, a group of kids run over to him and ask him to show them his trick again. Rien gets up and casts a spell at a bird above them to form a temporary contract. With that, the bird lands before them and gives a gracious bow to the kids who clap with joy. Rien ends the contract and releases the bird, which flies away. The children chat about how they will become a beast tamer like Rien someday. Rien questions why they don't dream of becoming a brave hero, to which the kids reply that the heroes are a snobbish group of people who look down upon commoners. They would much rather earn a fortune by becoming an adventurer traveling the world. This sparks a light bulb in Rien's head about his next course of action. Later in the day, he goes to the Adventurers Guild to look for jobs. Natalie, the receptionist, clarifies that all prospective adventurers must first pass a trial quest to prove they meet the basic requirements to become an adventurer. He must kill 10 goblins and collect 20 medicinal herbs to pass the test. Rien uses the help of a squirrel to find a group of goblins, which he kills easily despite his lack of combat skills because they are F-ranked monsters. While counting the rune stones left behind by the goblins, he hears a scream from deeper in the woods. Rien runs toward the scream to see a D-rank killer tiger attacking a helpless woman. He tries to stab the tiger's back, but its skin is so tough that his Meg's blade breaks. The tiger diverts its focus on him, prompting Rien to tell the girl to run away. However, she doesn't run away. Instead, she jumps several meters up in the air and uses the momentum to kick the tiger down, killing it. After getting a better look at her, Rien realizes she is no ordinary woman but a cat spirit, a type of ultimate species. Ultimate species are a unique class of beings with immense powers and strength, and cat spirits are a type of ultimate species on the brink of extinction. Although they are magic users, cat spirits have evolved to possess tremendous athletic abilities. Rien feeds her some of his food supplies since she looks exhausted after defeating the tiger. All energized again, the cat spirit introduces herself as Canaid and thanks him for saving her life. She says she got bored living in her small community, so she decided to travel and landed up here and met him. From the moment she saw him, she has sensed strong powers within him and can tell he must be a very talented beast tamer who can tame her. With the motive of getting to know her better, he agrees to tame her. He starts the ritual by biting his thumb and spilling a drop on his palm to form a magical rune. With that, he chants the words and successfully forms a contract between them. Both of them have a rune on their hand to symbolize the bond between them. After that, Rien continues with his trial quest. He forms temporary contracts with a bunch of rabbits to gather medicinal herbs for him. Watching this, Kane gets super impressed with his abilities. Normal beast tamers can usually only handle forming one temporary contract at a time. However, Rien is able to not only form multiple contracts at a time, but also while he has tamed Canaid, an ultimate species. This is beyond the scope of an ordinary beast tamer. He doesn't think it's that impressive and brushes it off. Rien returns to the guild with all the required items and passes the test. He is officially proclaimed an F-ranked adventurer of the Horizon Adventurers Guild. Natalie gives him his adventurer's card, which acts as his ID from now, and also 50 copper coins as a reward. Isn't enough to find lodging and fulfill his other basic needs, so he decides to complete more jobs later that day. Canaid waits for him at the guild's diner. When he returns, a brutish man approaches them both and tries to get Canaid to join him for lunch instead of Rien. She defends her master Rien's strength and tells the man to get lost. This bruises his ego, and he challenges Rien to an arm wrestling competition to determine who is really stronger. The winner gets to keep Canaid. Although Rien would normally never accept such challenges, he wants to nip this in the bud and prevent any chances of him harassing Canaid in the future. He sighs and sits on the chair, expecting to lose a miserable loss. However, the second the match begins, Rien floors the man's arm so hard that the table breaks, and the man falls down on the floor crying. Natalie comes to check the commotion and gets mad when she sees the man. She apologizes to Rien and Canaid for the nuisance, saying that the man has many complaints against him already and is bound to get suspended from the guild soon. Having said that, she grabs him by the leg and drags him out. Rien wonders where all of his strength came from. Kanad explains that one of the perks of the contract between them is that he gains for superhuman strength. Kanad is excited to get started on more quests, but is underwhelmed when they're back in the field collecting herbs. Since Rien is only an F-rank adventurer, they are confined to the very basic of jobs with the lowest of pay. He will be promoted once they gather enough experience. With the help of the rabbits, they collect enough herbs to meet their quota soon enough. When they're about to head back, Kanad's sensitive cat ears hear yelling in the distance. They run to the sound to investigate and see an old man getting harassed by a gang claiming to be part of Ibn Fang. Ibn Fang is an infamous large group of bandits with a reputation for being involved in all sorts of horrible crimes. At once, they both start charging toward the ruffians and take them by surprise. Rien takes care of all the bandits with his newfound strength, and Kanad checks on the old man. The old man warns them to run because everyone who defies the Ibn Fang end up getting tracked down and killed as revenge. Hearing that, Rien decides to hunt them down first. Kanad expresses her concerns of him aiming too high, but he assures her he has a plan. A squirrel leads them to the Ibn Fang's heavily guarded hideout. Rien forms a temporary contract with an Arby, a special type of bee with a very potent paralytic sting that can immobilize a man for 12 whole hours. He asks Kanad to go back to town and bring adventurers and knights in the meantime to help arrest all the criminals. Once she races off to get reinforcements, the RB brings back hundreds of its hive mates. He forms a contract with each of them and orders them to begin their work. All the bandits are paralyzed in no time, and the adventurers that Kanad brought quickly start rounding them up. Rien notices that no knights have shown up, to which one of the adventurers says the knights didn't think it was a big enough deal to come. Suddenly, the cave starts rumbling and loud growls bellow behind huge bars. 3 giant C-ranked monsters called king lizards break out of the bars. Such a scenario is a crisis for even the most seasoned adventurers, but Rien and Kanad beat them up like nobody's business while buying time for the others to take the bandits out and escape. The duo exits the cave to cheering and applause from the other adventurers, making it the first time Rien's work has been appreciated. Meanwhile, Rien's former party members yell at their newly hired beast Tamer for not conducting the reconnaissance properly and endangering the other members' lives as a result. The newbie says their demands have been unreasonable because they expect him to tame 10 to 20 animals at a time. He claims that beast tamers can't handle more than 1 or 2 at once because their brains get fried if they exceed their limit. However, the heroes, being accustomed to Rien's abilities, believe the man is lying and fire him on the spot. The task of arresting and transporting all the bandits takes almost a whole day. The taking down of Ibn Fang is considered so impressive that the guild invites Rien and specially promotes him to an E-rank adventurer and rewards him a generous amount of silver coins. They splurge their money on new equipment, eat a luxurious meal, and finally rent a room for lodging that night. A nice break from camping. A week passes since he met Kanad, and their quests have been smooth sailing so far. One day, Natalie gives them a quest to get rid of a trouble marker called the guard dog that is tormenting people who try to cross the Stride Bridge, the only path to trade from the central continent, where he is from, to the southern continent. Rien doesn't want to pass on the lofty prize of 5 gold coins and gladly accepts it. Rien tries to get information about the identity of the guard dog, but nobody is willing to share. So with no prior knowledge, him and Kanad go to the bridge. As soon as they arrive, a giant red dragon lands in front of them and turns into a woman who tells them to fight her. She admits she is the so-called guard dog and identifies herself as Tanya, one of the dragonoids. It is custom for the dragonoids, one of the ultimate species, to set out on a journey once they turn 15 to train and become strong. She has been waiting for a worthy opponent to fight at the bridge. She challenges them to a 2-on-1 fight, before which she refuses to leave the bridge. She begins by attacking Rien, but he just barely blocks her. She follows it by blowing fire toward them, causing Kanad's tail to get burnt at the tip. Upset, Kanad jumps at her and the two get into a catfight. Pun intended. Both the girls are on equal footing, so Rien tries to step in to tip the balance toward their favor. But Tanya surprisingly grabs them both and flings them into the air and launches a powerful firestorm at them. Kanad grabs Rien mid-air and uses her athletic abilities to dodge the flames and safely land them on the bridge. Having come up with a plan, he asks Kanad to buy him some time. Fully trusting him, she fights Tanya head-on while Rien runs off to the side and looks for the bird he spotted when he was flung in the air by Tanya. He finds it and forms a temporary contract with it. He asks it to bring its friends, each of which he tames as well. Upon his instruction, the birds swarm Tanya and pick on her. Tanya only finds them a mere annoyance and shoos them away. Of course, a dragonoid can't be hurt just by birds. However, before she can take another step, she crumbles to the ground. Rien explains that they are pedo birds, and their colorful plumage signify that they are poisonous. Unable to lift a finger, Tanya accepts defeat. Reen asks her to promise not to cause problems at the bridge again and to come with them once she's recovered. First, they go to the guild to inform Natalie that the matter has been taken care of. Natalie praises them and promises to give them their reward once the guild verifies the claim. She notices Tanya's horns and questions who she is. Reen quickly covers her and claims she's a normal human they met during their quest, and that she's only wearing a costume. If the town finds out there's a dragon in the area, everybody will panic. Next, he escorts her to the woods and asks Tanya to go as far away as possible from the town to continue her training. She is taken aback by this because she expected to be sold by him. Charmed by his kindness and ability, she asks to join them on their adventures for her training. Jealous Kanad hesitantly agrees to her request, and Reen is more than happy to grow his party. With that settled, Reen forms a contract with Tanya as well and tames her. Later that night, Arios and his party return to the town after an unsuccessful week of exploring the woods. They ran into many obstacles because they couldn't handle the jobs Reen would normally do. Arios decides to take advantage of Reen's niceness by asking him to join the party again, so that they can use him to clear the lost woods and abandon him after. Good luck with that. Anyway, the first quest that the trio does together is exterminating slimes. Slimes are F-rank monsters that any adventurer can kill and are largely ignored. Due to this, their populations sometimes burst and they swarm the town, causing a lot of inconvenience. The trio finds it harder than expected to find many slimes, so Reen employs another strategy. He uses the assimilate skill to transfer his consciousness to the bird temporarily, a skill that other beast tamers can't perform according to Kanade and Tanya. This allows him to use the bird's body and observe things from its perspective, while his actual body dozes off. He goes off to find slime swarms from an aerial view while Canada and Tanya look after his body. They all gather around a large swarm he found. Tanya asks him if he can cast any spells, to which he says he knows the beginner stuff but can't handle more advanced ones. She tells him to cast Fireball on the swarm. He knows it won't be enough to kill the entire swarm, but tries anyway. He concentrates and yells out, "Fireball." To his surprise, it unleashes a giant fireball that eliminates all of them. Tanya's hunch turns out right. She guessed that since he acquired Kanade's superhuman strength after forming a contract with her, he also would have acquired Tanya's dragonoid fire magical abilities. Since he's not used to using magic, they use the rest of the quest to improve his control over casting spells. After completing the quest, they get a whole lot of money, which they spend on a lavish dinner. Over dinner, Reen shares that he learned his beast tamer skills in his hometown. He used to live in a nameless village of entirely beast tamers, including his parents. So there was never a moment in his childhood when he wasn't exposed to the art. However, his hometown doesn't exist anymore. One day, when he was just 12 years old, he went off to practice beast taming alone in the woods. Only when he was returning late in the evening did he notice the sky had turned red in the distance and a large area was on fire. His gut feeling told him that something was wrong, and he started running home. When he arrived, he saw the whole village covered in ashes and everybody he knew dead. While he was gone, the village was attacked by monsters. An adventurer party rescued him and took him to an inn where he would earn his keep by doing chores and odd jobs for years. This was his life until less than a year ago when hero Arios recruited him to his party. He had accepted his invitation without hesitation, hoping to make a difference and prevent tragedies like the one that befell his hometown. However, he now realizes that they were just using him. Hearing his story, Kanade and Tanya are proud to have him as their master. Their next quest is to eradicate orcs around the town. Orcs are E-rank monsters that are similar to goblins but are much smarter and often use weapons. They clear several bands of orcs with ease, causing Tanya to take the mission very lightly. However, she gets ambushed by orcs when she least expects it and gets saved by Reen and Kanad. Tanya panics over Reen's minor injury, but he tells her not to worry and heals it with his enhanced healing powers. The incident seems to affect her deeply, and she is too ashamed to show her face to Reen once they return to the town. He walks up to her and asks her what's wrong. She immediately apologizes for letting her guard down and causing him to get injured. He accepts it with a big smile and asks her to be careful the next time because he and Kanad care about her. His kindness leaves her speechless and blushing. They breeze through their quests the next day and start heading back to town. On their way, they run into none other than Arios and his party. Reen reflexively decides to turn the other way and take another route, but Arios stops him. The party is shocked to see him with two ultimate species. Arios tells him that the party ran into problems trying to explore the lost woods on their own and condescendingly asks him to join the party again to provide his services. Thankfully, Reen knows his worth and firmly declines their offer. Seeing him walk away, one of the heroes tells him to wait. She says that their mission in the Lost Woods is to retrieve one of the noble relics, the Shield of Truth, needed to defeat the Demon King. It'll be impossible to defeat the Demon King without the relics, leading to monsters running rampant everywhere and killing civilians. The thought causes Reen to remember his childhood trauma and forces him to accept their offer. Tanya and Kinnaid intervene and demand an apology from Arios to Reen for mistreating him. The hero is too prideful to ask for forgiveness from him and demeans the girls by calling them Reen's pets. This causes Reen to snap and punch him. Insulted, the insolent Arios challenges Reen and his comrades to prove which of the groups is stronger. Kinnaid fights head-on with the bald swordsman and overwhelms him with a hurricane of punches. He tries to use a fancy technique to slash her down, but she simply kicks his sword away. Realizing he can't possibly beat her, he hesitates on the next attack. He questions why such a strong ultimate species wants to serve the incompetent Reen. His comment angers Kinnaid, who delivers a kick straight to his face and knocks him out. Next, Tanya faces the party's two mages. They simultaneously unleash their first spells at her, but Tanya stands her ground and simply snaps her fingers. Just like that, their magic dissolves. They try again with different spells, but they disappear again with the snap of a finger. Tanya explains that she is using Material Cleanser, a technique that identifies a spell at the fundamental level and neutralizes it with an effective counterspell. The mages try hurling even more spells to no effect and are eventually too exhausted to cast any more. Tanya teaches them a lesson by threatening to annihilate them with epic-level magic, but reveals she was bluffing for Reen's sake. Finally, it's Reen versus Arios. Arios tries to make a snarky comment, but Reen cuts him off with a punch to the face. Arios draws his sword and attacks him with rapid swings that are barely visible to Reen, but it's still nothing compared to when he faced Tanya at the Stride Bridge. He finds an opening and punches Arios in the gut. The hero is struck by his superhuman strength, which he is sure he didn't have before. Arios switches to magic, but Reen easily counters the lightning spell with his powerful dragonoid strength-infused fireball. Arios knows Reen only knows how to cast fireball and heal and launches a bunch of magical attacks that he can't counter. Reen decides to return to his roots and fights how he's most comfortable. Arios charges toward him with magic, but suddenly feels a sharp sting and falls to the ground. Reen shows him the Arby with whom he formed a remote temporary contract during the fight, proving that beast tamers are not useless. Just for the sake of satisfaction, Reen terrifies Arios with an earth-shaking blow. After the fight, the heroes pass on their tasks to Reen and the girls. Apparently, the Shield of Truth is currently in possession by monsters deep in the woods, and retrieving it is indispensable to defeating the Demon King. The trio goes to the Lost Woods to look for it on their own. The Lost Woods gets its name because it constantly changes its shape, causing explorers to get lost in the impossible maze. Reen employs his assimilate strategy to get the lay of the land while the two watch over his body. He returns after successfully finding a path that leads deeper into the forest. They follow the path but eventually find themselves back at the spot where they laid a rock to mark their way. Tanya suspects something more at play and uses a material search spell to look for strong magical sources. The light orbs lead the way to a large tree that releases illusionary magic, which messes with the brains of all those within its field and causes them to walk in circles. Tanya asks Kinnaid to destroy the tree to stop the magic, but Reen suggests Tanya disarm it without killing it. Before that, Kinnaid launches a powerful kick to the tree. Before she can make contact, an eerie voice comes from the tree, telling them to leave this place. The voice repeats itself over and over again as a glowing girl with wings emerges from the tree. They realize they're witnessing a fairy, an ultimate species with magical powers even stronger than the dragonoids. They try to explain themselves to the fairy, but she always cuts them off and tells them to leave. When they don't listen, she threatens to force them out with magic, and they run away without another word. Once they get away, Reen explains that fairies condemn humans due to the long history of conflict between the two species. It leads to the fairies, who are forest dwellers, losing most of their habitat and finding sanctuary in the few remaining dense woods. They consider the possibility that the tree's barrier is protecting the Shield of Truth. Tanya and Kinnaid plot strategies to destroy the tree, but Reen decides it is best to try and talk to the fairy once again. When they return to the tree, he asks Kinnaid and Tanya to stay back. He confronts the fairy, who threatens to attack them for real if they don't leave. Reen accepts the attack to show he is sincere in his wish to talk to her. The fairy unleashes a bunch of arrows that graze him, but he remains standing in place with a smile. This shocks the fairy for a moment, and he uses the opportunity to convince her he has good intentions. However, she snaps out of her confusion and launches another attack. This time, Kinnaid and Tanya block the attack and appeal to the fairy by telling her about all the kind things he's done for them. This piques the fairy's interest, and she decides to hear them out. She introduces herself as Sora. After learning of their intention to find the Shield of Truth, Sora reveals herself to be the one who erected the tree's barrier but still refuses to lower it because the barrier protects the fairy's village from being discovered. Also, it's not monsters, but fairies who protect the shield of truth. Since it is required to kill the Demon King, she hands it over to them. Her hate for monsters runs deeper than her hate for humans. Hence, retrieving this relic turned out much easier than expected. The trio thanks her and makes their way back, but Rien can't shake the feeling that she looked uneasy and returns to ask her if something's wrong. Although hesitant at first, Sora reveals she has a twin sister, Luna, with whom she used to maintain the barrier. However, a few days ago, they left the barrier together for a short period to do something else, but ran into a monster from the Demon King's army called the Shadow Knight. They were unable to defeat it, and it captured Luna and demanded Sora to lower the barrier and reveal the village in exchange for Luna. Unable to turn against all their folk, she ran back to the village and begged the leader for help. But he chose the village's safety over Luna and ordered Sora to ignore the monster's ultimatum. Although she was bound to listen, she can't bear to leave her sister in the monster's hands. Kanayat and Tanya wonder how two fairies couldn't beat the monster. Rien explains that even though Shadow Knights are C-rank monsters that would otherwise be easily defeated by ultimate species, they have the nasty ability to absorb all magic, making them impossible to defeat by fairies who solely rely on magic. They agree to help Sora get her sister back. Sora shows them a way to the Shadow Knight. First, Rien draws its attention by throwing a fireball at him, and then he and Kanayat ambush him with physical attacks. The monster guesses they've come upon Sora's request and goes to kill chained-up Luna for the betrayal of their terms. However, Tanya protects her from the attack and frees her from her bounds. Tanya escapes with Luna in her arms while Rien and Kanad hold the knight off. None of their attacks are enough to defeat the knight, so Rien comes up with a plan. He forms another temporary contract with an Arby colony and asks them to attack the Shadow Knight. Although their sting won't work on the monster, their swarming distracts it. During that time, Rien uses his special Beast Tamer ability, Boost, to temporarily enhance Kanayat's powers. With pure strength running through her veins, Kanayat strikes the Shadow Knight with a force that finally destroys it. With the monster defeated, the trio returns Luna to a much-relieved Sora. Although they look completely identical, their personalities are the total opposite. While Sora has a gentle and elegant demeanor, Luna is more open and coarse in her behavior. Sora decides they can't return to the village that abandoned Luna, but have nowhere else to go. Kanayat invites them to their party. Rien agrees but doesn't want to seem forceful due to the long hatred between fairies and humans. However, they trust Rien to be an honorable human being and request he form a contract with them. He has no prior knowledge on how to tame fairies, making it much harder to form a contract with them. The effort makes him go faint, but the fairies hold him up and greet their new master. After only 2 days of accepting the quest, Rien hands over the shield to the heroes. They suspect him of giving them a fake shield and magically test its authenticity, only to be surprised that it's the real thing. They give him the 20 coins they promised to pay him. Rien turns to leave, but the bald man asks him to join the party again. Arios get enraged that a member invited him without seeking his approval first. The bald man argues that they clearly need Rien's help to defeat the Demon King successfully, and the other members begrudgingly agree. The bald man extends his hand for a handshake to seal the deal, promising better pay and treatment. However, Rien knows they haven't changed and refuse their offer. He already has a much better party waiting for him. After he leaves, the other members try hard to cope with the embarrassment of rejection by insulting him. Arios stays behind, still salty over his disgraceful defeat the other day, and vows to enact revenge. Outside, the group discusses the legend of the Demon King. Rien explains that the Demon King has the power to control all humans, thus enslaving them for centuries. However, the first hero decided to beg the gods for a way to defeat him. The gods bestowed upon him some of their divine blood. With their divine blood in his veins, he was given the unique ability to surpass the human limits in terms of strength and magic and endlessly level up his powers. Eventually, he grew strong enough to take the Demon King down and free the humans. However, the threat of the Demon King still remains. And it is the mission of all heroes in each generation to try and defeat the Demon King once and for all. Although Arios is too weak now, he will grow to one day be strong enough to take the king on. Sora and Luna bring up how Rien's multiple contracts with the ultimate species have increased his strength many times over a normal humans, akin to the hero's unique ability. They all suggest Rien take on the mission to defeat the Demon King. He admits he would do it if he could, but since it is a big decision, he wants to take some time to make up his mind. One day, the crew thinks it's about time Rien buys some equipment to increase his fighting capabilities. It's the first time Sora and Luna step foot on the town's streets, and they get overwhelmed by seeing so many humans around them. However, they realize there's nothing to worry about after seeing Tanya and Kana get along with the locals. They visit the best equipment shop in town, where all the weapons are crafted by a rather unfriendly dwarf. Rien browses the shelf and picks up a dagger, saying he's the most comfortable wielding one. However, when he unsheathes it, he notices something odd. At that moment, a bubbly young man plops a bag of gold coins on the dwarf's counter and asks for his best weapon. The dwarf picks up a beautiful sword from a collection of identical swords and gives it to him. Pleased with its appearance, the man thanks him and leaves with satisfaction. Reen walks up to the dwarf and asks him if he really gave his best weapon to that man, elaborating that although it's good for a trophy, the sword and all the other weapons in the shop appear to lack something necessary for a real fight. The dwarf glares at him for some time but then bursts out laughing. He admits that the ones put up for display are average weapons that he can craft with one hand. You see, everybody comes into the shop expecting the best weapon without even considering their own abilities and compatibility with the weapon. He believes it is reasonable for him to want a worthy buyer to take his best crafted weapons. He has a separate collection of weapons he's given his all to crafting, but only those who pass his test can see it, while saying that he unveils a set of high-grade weapons with a unique glow. He is so impressed with Reen that he offers to make a special weapon for him, but he lacks the materials. He says that he needs the ultra-precious mithril ore to craft the perfect weapon, but the mithril mountain passed down to him by his family suddenly ran out of its supply. The sudden stoppage of mithril is unusual, so he suspects something is wrong with the mine. They offer to go investigate the mine for him. Happy, the dwarf accepts their offer and introduces himself as Gams Stoloff. He asks how much they want to be paid as reward, and Reen says he would like his best weapon. Considering it the best answer, Gans accepts his request. After hiking a long way, they finally reach the mithril mine, which looks abandoned at first sight. Still, Reen makes them hide because he suspects there are illegal miners inside, because it is odd that the mithril supply would stop altogether rather than slowly dwindle. Suddenly, a large bird swoops over them and makes a loud call. His suspicions prove correct when two men come out of the shaft to investigate the call. Kanad and Tanya immediately knock them out, making it impossible for him to extract information from them. Sora and Luna offer to peek inside the men's memories with magic and see that a total of 7 adventurers have been illegally mining the mithril for some time. Kanad wonders how they were found out, to which Reen answers that the bird was probably under the control of a beast tamer who was part of the illegal mining. The other miners inside get antsy because the 2 they sent haven't returned yet. The mage in the group casts a fire spell inside the passage that Reen's party walks through. Luna and Sora cast a powerful barrier to shield it. The rest is a piece of cake for the different ultimates, and they bind all the criminal adventurers. Reen punches the other beast tamer and tells him to surrender. However, he doesn't back down and snaps his fingers to summon a behemoth, a B-rank monster. Usually, they are untamable because monsters have a natural hatred towards humans, but this beast hunter tamed it when it was a child, so it doesn't have any hatred towards him. The behemoth's attacks cause tremors inside the mine, threatening the shaft to collapse. Everyone except Reen escorts the bound adventurers out of the shaft, and Kanad comes back to assist Reen. Reen will face the monster while Kanad captures the man. If the man can no longer give the behemoth orders, it'll stop its attack. Reen learns the behemoth's patterns and dodges all its attacks. Soon enough, Kanad gets a hold of the beast tamer. Reen urges him to stop the monster, but he refuses to until they die. Reen decides to trust his friend's words that he is stronger than all beast tamers and faces the behemoth. He puts all his focus into a spell and overwrites the man's control over the monster, becoming his new master. After that, the behemoth stops attacking Reen. Infuriated, the man keeps yelling at the monster to kill Reen, and this causes it to become untamed and attack the man instead. Desperate, Reen releases a huge fireball that instantly kills the behemoth, a regrettable outcome, but there was no other choice. Outside the mine, all the adventurers confess to their crimes. Their motive was revenge because they all were previous clients of Gantz and feel they were cheated by him when given those lackluster weapons that failed them in combat. When Gantz learns of this, he feels guilty and realizes that he should put passion in all of his crafted items for the world to see. He thanks Reen and the others and asks him what weapon he wants. He asks for a dagger and a gauntlet and whispers another request in the dwarf's ears. Gantz agrees to make them for him. Meanwhile, Arios rushes through interviews of adventurers who apply to the party's open beast tamer position. However, he turns all of them down because none of them compare to Reen. He dismisses the other member for the day, and she tells him to rest well because his mission is to defeat the Demon King. Arios stays back and takes out a ring surrounded by a dark aura when he's alone, stating that his current mission is to eliminate Reen. One day, Reen and the twin fairies take a walk outside. They're all having fun when suddenly a handsome man with golden locks approaches them and asks the girls their names. Once they answer, he proclaims they will be his. Sora, Luna, and Reen are dumbfounded and brush him off. He introduces himself as Edgar Fromware, son of the Lord of Horizon, as if that will convince them to come. When they still don't follow him, he decides to take them by force with the help of his guards. Reen single-handedly defeats all of them. Next, the guards fan out and point their swords at civilians. They all die if he doesn't give Sora and Luna to Edgar. Reen is stumped over his next move but senses a new instinctual feeling inside him. He decides to trust it and casts Fireball. Multiple fireballs get unleashed at once and rain over the guards. This is a consecutive incantation, a special ability of fairies to cast a sing spell multiple times in one go, which he must have acquired from Sora and Luna when he formed a contract with them. Edgar is forced to leave the scene. The civilians thank him for saving their life but advise him to leave the town of Horizon and go somewhere far away. Due to his influence and power as the Lord's son, Edgar abducts civilians on a whim and eliminates all those who oppose him. Back home, Reen and the twins recount the incident to Kinnaid and Tanya, who slept through it. They all decide to take the menace down. Kinnaid and Reen go to the Order of Knights to report the incident, but the Knights reject the complaint, saying it's too trivial a matter for them to take up. This confirms that the Knights are corrupt and are in cahoots with the Lord. While walking back, they are followed by a Knight. She introduces herself as Stella in Place, the vice-captain of Horizon's Order of Knights. She states that the Lord's family has corrupted the Knights and made them forget their moral duties, with Captain Guylet being no exception. She wants to restore the Order to their former dignified state and believes Reen and Kinnaid, the rumored adventurer and cat spirit that took the Ebon Fang, can help her. They are happy to accept her idea. Stella and Reen's party craft an elaborate plan to trap the Knights in one fell swoop. They spread a rumor that a warehouse on the city's outskirts contains evidence that exposes the corruption of the Knights and the Lord's family. Captain Guylet and the other corrupted Knights go to the warehouse to investigate. As soon as they enter the warehouse, the door shuts behind them and Sora and Luna freeze the door in place. Reen and Stella are already inside and standing as a higher vantage point. From there, Reen uses the new gauntlet he received from Gantz to shoot magical arrows at the Knights, taking down all except Captain Guylet. The captain tracks the arrow's directions and sees Reen and Stella. Stella wishes to take him out on her own and asks Reen to stay back. Guylet fights her with brute force, belittling her for turning her back against him, but she gains the upper hand and slits his throat. Shortly after, Edgar receives word of everything that happened. He gets so furious that he beats up one of the abducted girls with foxtails. Arios enters his room through the open window and says he's a fellow Reen hater. He gives him the ring with the dark aura, saying it has the power to bring death to its target. You should use it to kill Reen. After the corrupt Knights are taken care of, Stella approaches the Lord's mansion with a small group of loyal Knights, Canada and Tanya. They demand entry, but the guards circle them, ready to fight. In reality, this upfront confrontation is a distraction while Sora, Luna, and Reen sneak into the mansion from the back and free the kidnapped. Luna uses material search to locate the abducted civilians by detecting the traces of their magical powers. They find a bunch of signatures below them, as would be expected from a group of prisoners. But she also notices a strong magical presence above them equal to their level. Reen decides to investigate the source of the powerful signal while the twins find and teleport the victims away. Reen enters the room with a powerful signal to see a dark cell. Inside, he sees a girl child with fox ears and 3 foxtails, a telltale sign of the ultimate species called demigod. She looks starved and weak, with bruises all over her body. The saddest thing of all is that she looks frightened of Reen. He breaks through the cell and heals her with his magic. Grateful, she hugs him and introduces herself as Mina. She shares that she was captured by Edgar after he blackmailed her by threatening to hurt the innocent people in her village if she didn't go with him. Reen tries to remove the collar from her neck, but she flinches away, saying it has a powerful spell on it. He analyzes the magic in the collar and realizes it is fundamentally the same as taming magic, as it serves to subjugate and control its target. So he tries countering the spell by overriding its control but gets electrocuted in the process. He perseveres through the pain and ultimately breaks the collar. Meanwhile, Tanya and Kinnaid effortlessly hold off the guards' attacks. Clearly disadvantaged, the guards decide to bring the kidnapped from the basement to use as hostages. In that moment, Luna and Sora enter the scene and launch multi-shot fireballs. They have already relocated the victims to a safe location. This means Kinnaid and Tanya can go all out on their attack without worrying about the victim's safety. Within a minute, they defeat all the guards and regroup with Reen. They warmly greet and interact with Nina while Reen and Stella discuss what they can use as proof of the Lord's wrongdoings. At that moment, the Lord runs into them while trying to flee from the mansion. Stella first asks him to surrender himself, but the Lord refuses. In that case, Reen uses magic to bind and shut him up. Edgar enters the room and uses the ring to cast a death spell on Reen. A Grim Reaper appears in front of him and strikes him squarely in the chest. Arios, who's been watching from the roof, laughs maniacally, believing Reen is finally dead, and disappears into the dark. However, Reen remains standing on his feet, wondering what happened. Everybody wonders how he was able to resist the epic-level instant death spell. Luna boldly tests a hypothesis by casting a poison gas spell on him, which also doesn't affect him. Although a rash gamble, it proves that the contract with the fairies allows him to nullify epic-level magic, and thus survive the instant death magic. Edgar watches bitterly over Reen and his victorious foes. The ring feeds off his negative emotions and releases the demon within it. Seeing it makes Reen's heart stop because it is the same demon that destroyed his hometown. The giant demon flies away from the mansion, but Reen knows its real target is the people of the city. Reen's party follows it on its heels while Stella protects the people and Nina waits in the safety of the mansion. The demon proves a difficult opponent, injuring both Kinnaid and Tanya. Reen enhances their power with boosts, which they bombard the demon with attacks, but it remains unscathed. It keeps summoning groups of monsters to attack them. Defeating the demon looks to be impossible. The hero's party watches from afar as Horizon goes up in flames. Although the other members consider going to help, Arios orders them to stay back. Natalie gathers the town's adventurers and rallies them to fight against the monsters, and Gantz arms them with his finest weapons. With the help of the adventurers, Reen's party cuts down the number of monsters. Sora and Luna employ the help of Stella to round up the civilians so that they can mass teleport them to a safe place. They are hesitant to get into the portal at first when they learn the twins are fairies. However, a few individuals recall their positive interactions with the girls and trust them enough to walk into the portal. Thanks to their initiative, the other civilians also walk into the portal. After the first wave of teleportations, a horde of monsters invades the area. Sora continues teleporting people while Luna faces the monsters with Stella and her knights. Nina watches the chaos the entire time while battling an internal conflict on whether she should fight or stay put. At this point, Reen and the others hit a brick wall and need to get closer to the demon to inflict any damage on it. Tanya's dragon form is too big of a target to risk flying him toward the demon. Nina runs up to Reen and tells him she wants to help. She uses her instant teleport ability to get him up close and personal with the demon. Her ability is so fast that she can zap him from one spot to another within a second, effectively dodging all the demon's attacks. Reen uses boost on himself to enhance his powers. With the boost, he magically binds the demon and, with great effort, overwrites the control over all his minion monsters so that they obey him. Miraculously, it works, and he orders them to turn on the demon and attack him. Their combined ambush overwhelms the demon, and he is finally defeated. The repeated teleportation takes a toll on little Nina, and she goes out cold, but Tanya swoops in to save them from free-falling to the ground. This marks the victory of Reen's party and the knights over the demon. The civilians of the town quickly start rebuilding their town after the attack. Luckily, Horizon is a big town that can jump back up in no time, and Kinnaid's superhuman strength tremendously helps in construction. Stella is officially appointed the captain of the Order of Knights in the Horizon Division, while the corrupt knights are carted off to the capital for punishment. Even though Tanya had been hiding her true identity as a dragonoid, it turns out that people caught on a while back. Despite being fairies, the town accepts Sora and Luna, and they fit in seamlessly. Later, upon Nina's request, Reen forms a contract with her, and she becomes the newest member of their party. Further, he gets promoted by the guild to a C-rank adventurer for all his amazing work. Now that his party has grown pretty big, they buy a house to serve as their home base, a common practice among adventurer groups. The house turns out to be haunted, but they befriend the ghost and make her a member of their party as well. The hero's party tries to get rations from the town for free, but their extortion doesn't work, and the civilians drive them out after ranting over how they were of no help during the demon attack. Oh my, how the turntables. The party celebrates their housewarming with a feast. The warmth and comfort he feels around his friends feels almost new, but he realizes he hasn't felt like this since he lost his parents and hometown. The feeling makes him break into tears, but they're there to wipe them for him and continue to celebrate.